think there might be some reserved seats up the front that might not be needed, so feel free to come on up close to the front. Yeah, so we'll just wait another minute till people get settled. Yeah. We've got people participating in the launch today via live streaming, and they know we're starting at 3, so we'll just wait till, and I bet if everyone looks at their clock, there'll be different times. So we'll just wait 20 seconds or so longer. The mood lighting is interesting. I can hardly see anyone. How many people are here? Good to go. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Chris Matheson. I'm the CEO of Vicdeaf. Extend a really warm welcome to you on such a fabulous Melbourne and Victorian day. Welcome to all of you who are present here, and also, as I mentioned, to those people who around Melbourne and regional Victoria are participating via the live streaming that we have available. I'd like to extend, obviously, a particular thanks to Minister Foley for coming today to launch the VRI service, to the Vicdeaf board directors. 4 of them are present here today. Welcome to you. To some of my ex-colleagues from DHHS, welcome to you, and thank you for your support in getting the project up and running. Steve Hodgkinson, who's the Chief Information Officer from DHHS, welcome to you also. To the deaf community, importantly, who are the major recipients of a service like this, and just to our specially invited guests who have come along, and of course to the Vicdeaf staff and VRI team in particular. I'd like to acknowledge the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and as is becoming a bit of a tradition, we're also acknowledging some of the deaf community elders, some of whom have pictures around this room and who are really special and important to the Victorian deaf community. Today is about, a bit of a celebration about offering a service that connects people up, and my role is really just to do the welcome, but at some point I imagine we're maybe needing to clap, and I think it would be appropriate for those of you who don't know how to clap in Auslan. I see some people already know, so let's have a big round of applause to just get us started with an Auslan clap. Well done everyone. Some recalcitrance in there, I think. Yeah. I would just like to frame, I guess, the launch today with an understanding of how it fits with Vicdeaf's new strategic plan. We've got 6 strategic priorities, but I think there's probably 4 in particular that resonate most importantly with today and the service, and those relate to deaf identity and deaf interests, and that's what the core of the work that we do is about. Even though we offer broader services beyond deaf and hard of hearing people, deaf identity and deaf interests are about culture and language being acknowledged, understood, acted upon in terms of what Vicdeaf does, and also celebrated. And I think that's what occasions like today do, is they celebrate and promote Auslan as a language. And the other 2 priorities relate to communication and access, and participation and inclusion. It's a fundamental human right to be able to communicate and have access to communication, and through innovative services like this, we're really increasing the opportunities for people to participate in everyday things like appointments with lawyers, appointments with doctors, or a whole range of other things that you and I and others maybe perhaps take for granted. So this is I think, a great testament to thinking outside the square in how we can offer different alternatives to communication and accessing interpreters. Thanks to the Minister and the Department for recognising that is an important thing for the deaf and hard of hearing community, and investing in this service over the next 3 years. It's timely also, as I finish, to just say that the government released today Victoria's regional statement, and that talks about creating jobs, providing better opportunities for young people, and ensuring a brighter future for families and communities. VRI is obviously really important to people in regional areas, but also for people in the metropolitan areas as well. So it's my task now to introduce you to Brent Phillips, who's our General Manager of Communication and Language Services, who will be your MC for today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Great to see a full house here this afternoon. I'm excited you're all able to join us. This event has been a long time coming, so I'm excited it's here now. As Chris mentioned, I'm the General Manager of Community and Language Services here at Vicdeaf. Part of our language service team includes Auslan Connections and our branded language services. We provide face-to-face interpreting, VRI interpreting, captioning and note-taking. And that's a range and suite of services that deaf and hard of hearing people can access. Chris has acknowledged key people in the room, but I would also like to acknowledge our friends from VITS, the Victorian Interpreting and Translating Service, our friends from DSQ, Deaf Services Queensland. Hopefully they're joining us through the live streaming equipment. Our friends from DHHS as well, we've worked very closely with them over the last 12 months to establish and successfully start delivering on this VRI service. There's one person I'd like to acknowledge in particular, Dr. Philip Harper, who really is the pioneer of the VRI service for the past 10 years. He's an expert in telecommunications and a variety of devices that can be used for deaf people to access the world. And he's also the chair for the expert group into technology and access at WFD, World Federation of Deaf. So I'm glad you're here, Phil, and I must say we wouldn't be here today without your commitment and passion and the effort you've put into developing the VRI service. As I've said, VRI as a technology has been around for a while, but this is an exciting time today, an exciting opportunity for us to be able to provide a high quality service to the deaf and hard of hearing community. In particular, technology is developing and advancing and has been over the last few years, and we're now in a good position to deliver a portable, flexible VRI service. As well, the VRI service and model is all about choice. People can choose how they want to access the VRI service. It may be through video conferencing equipment, Skype, or an application known as ClearC. And you can access VRI from a range of devices: your desktop computer, your laptop, a tablet, and even occasionally on your smartphone. So it's impressive to know there's a complete, flexible, innovative VRI service where deaf people can choose what suits their needs. The feedback we've received so far from our clients has been impressive, 100% success rate, and that's something we're very proud of. Particularly those in regional and remote areas in Victoria, previously they've never had an opportunity to access a high quality standard of interpreters. This gives them a viable option to access interpreters and a range of interpreters. In the past, they've had to rely on friends or family for significant meetings in their life, perhaps medical appointments or appointments with DHHS, now they can access this service, which is a fantastic outcome. As well, people that live in Metro Melbourne, it gives them the flexibility and choice as well to either use VRI for short meetings or have the option of using a face-to-face interpreter as well. We now can provide access to VRI for short notice bookings through our on-demand VRI service. This service is provided with our partnership with Deaf Services Queensland, and it's a first in Australia. So if you need an interpreter within 20 minutes, you can give us a call and we can guarantee that service will be provided. So there's no need to wait for 2 weeks because of our supply and demand issue. You can have an interpreter on demand through this new service. We also want to acknowledge the VRI service is perfectly aligned with the NDIS in 2 of their particular strategies. One, the rural and remote strategy, and the second being the assistive technology strategy. The NDIS have released their strategies in those 2 areas, and we believe the VRI service is perfectly aligned with the initiatives and goals of the strategy. And we're looking forward to seeing this service grow as the NDIS has rolled out, not only in Victoria, but also nationally. Chris has mentioned that our service really does fit perfectly with our new strategic plan that we will be implementing over the next 5 years. In terms of deaf interests, accessibility, technology, participation and partnership, it ticks all the boxes. As well, I would like to add, over the last couple of days, I've been at the first National Deaf Mental Health Conference held here in Victoria. There were 150 people nationally attending, talking about mental health issues and how they relate to deaf people. There's a lot of discussion about accessibility and how to receive support and how to access services. A lot of the discussion was about interpreters, the difficulty booking an interpreter, and during times of need and crisis situations, it's difficult to get an interpreter here and there, whereas VRI service hopefully can fill that gap, and it just proves it is an important service to the lives of deaf people. I won't go on further. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce the Honourable Martin Foley, the Minister for Disability. I think you've got a lot of portfolios, but I'll just keep it specific to housing, disability and ageing. It's great to have you here today and welcome.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction, Brent, and I appreciate your kind words. Can I acknowledge Christine and the wonderful work that everyone here at Vicdeaf does? Can I acknowledge the board members, the supporters, all the departmental supporters from Queensland as well, I understand. And thank you everyone for coming along here today. I too would begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present, and acknowledge that we meet here on Wurundjeri country and pay my respects particularly to any elders of that community. I'm always pleased, as you indicated, Brent, to come along and meet as the Minister for Housing, Disability and Ageing with frontline organisations such as Vicdeaf, because what you do is neatly bring together all of what I like to think are the key principles and values of the portfolios that we have, and you neatly describe them around as participation, accessibility and identity, and add to that today's discussion around innovation and service delivery. It's a really great honour to be asked to participate in this important video remote interpreting, or VRI, services launch today. The Victorian Government is very pleased to enter into partnership with Vicdeaf in the delivery of this particularly exciting new service. The Government has funded $489,000 over the next 3 years to implement this innovation. The funding is built on funding that goes back a few years to the last time Labor was in government in 2007 and 8 for the then trial of the video relay interpreting services. As we all know, on-site Auslan interpreting is not always available, and that's particularly the case in rural and regional Victoria. And in 2015, on the verge of the rollout of the NDIS and the importance that that will have in and making sure people have access to all sorts of services, this is a particularly timely and important innovation by Vicdeaf. By the improved technology that we now have at our disposal, we are on the cusp of making sure that people have greater access to interpreting services when on-site Auslan interpreters are not available. The new technology makes services more flexible. They can be used more widely in a number of locations right across Victoria, as you indicated, whether that be through desktop computers, laptop or tablets. In short, the service will become more accessible and more responsive to consumer-driven needs and demands. The service will also have a wide number of applications, and they are really only limited by our imagination and, of course, access to resources to deliver them. But for instance, whether it's a parent-teacher meeting or legal advice or sitting down with your NDIS planner or any number of other opportunities that really will emerge as this technology gets taken up and gets driven by users of the service in ways and means that I don't think we can properly appreciate as yet. I'd like to thank Vicdeaf for their commitment to improving access to Auslan interpreting services right across our community. Now, Victorians who are deaf will be more connected to services and opportunities that go with those than ever before. We talk about the NDIS being not just a delivery of a much more well-resourced specialist disability service provision. We also talk about it as being an opportunity to re-engage with the wider Australian and Victorian community about the rights of people with disability, about the right to participate, about the right to civic engagement, about building a more disability inclusive society. And we talk about that in the abstract. This is delivering the bricks and mortar of that right. And I congratulate Vicdeaf for the leadership they have shown in that. Now more than ever, Victorians who are deaf will be more connected and more engaged and more able to enforce their rights than ever before. And this can only be a good thing. I'm particularly pleased that the service will reach deaf community members in rural and remote Victoria who otherwise might not have access to those interpreters. And I'm reliably informed by the wonders of modern technology, including many of those who are participating in our launch today. So hello to you wherever you might be watching, even Queensland. I'd encourage all service providers to access the new technology using Auslan Interpreter services to make sure that you improve the service delivery for the people you deal with who are deaf. The Victorian government believes that every Victorian, regardless of who they are, their income, their sexual preference, their gender, their level of ability, whatever postcode they live in, that you have the right to participate in our community. The VRI service we are launching today is an important reflection of that in reality. It is your right to participate. It can only be a good thing, and I wish the service every success in the future, and thank you once again for the opportunity to share this time with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Foley. It's good to see those comments made and to see the commitment the government have to the deaf and hard of hearing community. And it's great the partnership we've been able to develop with the government. We look forward to continuing that and growing that to allow deaf people in the future to access more services and the community in general. So thank you, Minister. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Melissa Anderson. She's a highly respected member of the deaf community, and she's a deaf educator at Aurora Early Intervention Services. And she is going to share with us a user experience of using the VRI. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Brent. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Brent for asking me to come and speak about my experiences with the VRI service. I work for Aurora Early Intervention Service, and I may need to explain to you what my role is there. I work in the western part of the state, and that's including Sunshine, and further west from there, there's another worker that works in the east. We're unfortunately unable to work throughout the state because of the demand, but I work in the west. At Aurora, we provide early intervention services in a bilingual program for deaf or hard of hearing students or children in both spoken English and Auslan. And my role is a deaf educator, and I work with families in their homes. I give advice, I explain a little more about Auslan so that we can have communication available for those families. I work amongst a team. I may go on my own or with one of my team members to visit these families. And that's working with deaf children. The families I visit also have children that go to childcare. And the staff at childcare centres may not know how to work with children who are deaf or hard of hearing so that their communication is accessible. So I work with those staff members who don't know anything about Auslan. And usually I will take an interpreter with me so that I can have those initial meetings take place. After those initial meetings, I generally manage without an interpreter. There was one time when I needed to go somewhere in the west, and it was quite a distance, to a childcare centre. One of the staff members there wanted to develop their skills, so I went and provided some professional development, and I couldn't find an interpreter. There was no one available. I had to still go though, and what I did was I booked through VITS, and we got an interpreter. But from that interpreter's home, where she had NBN connection, she connected up to my laptop where I was out in the country. And it was a brilliant, clear picture. I had the staff members sitting in front of me. I was standing in front of them, in front of my laptop. My colleague and I delivered that PD session through the assistance of the interpreter on the screen, who was remotely connected to me, which I thought was brilliant. I asked the participants how they felt, and they felt that they were understanding and relating to everything I was saying. Another time I was in the Wimmera, and again it was a long distance to travel. I couldn't organise an interpreter, and there was quite an expense attached to getting an interpreter to go face to face. So again, I used what's known as ClearSea. It's an application. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I downloaded it and I organised the booking of the interpreter remotely. I had to visit people, 2 different families, and I actually had to try and get there on time. It was quite a distance because I knew the interpreter had been booked at that particular time. So I arrived, and after downloading the ClearSea program, you can use that on a laptop or a smartphone or a tablet device. At the time I had a laptop, and I thought this was terrific. The quality was okay, but because of if we had NBN out in that area, it would have been better. But because of the connection, the internet connection not being terrific where I was located, it wasn't as good as it could have been. I also had to get a dongle to enable myself to have access to Wi-Fi because I didn't want to ask the family members to provide that. So that's how I worked it, and it all went very well. Again, I went off to the country the last couple of days, and I had a 4-hour drive. Again, I booked the video relay interpreter, and one of the best things about using the VRI service is that when you work with families, well, in this case it was a little hard of hearing boy who was 3 years old, 3 or 4, and he hasn't yet developed his sign language skills. So I had the interpreter on my iPad in front of me, and the parent was sitting opposite me, and the little boy was sitting next to me and wanting to watch what was on the iPad. So I would sign to him because he doesn't know sign language yet, I was able to communicate with him with the assistance of the interpreter on the screen. So it wasn't really a client as such using the VRI, it was a little deaf boy. And I think that that was just wonderful. He felt very comfortable and engaged. He was able to listen to the interpreter and then sign to me. So it was really beautiful. So I'm using the VRI service as a deaf professional. I'm not a client as such. I'm not a hearing professional, but I'm a deaf professional working out there remotely. So I think it's a very good service for deaf professionals throughout the state, not just in the urban centre, but out there remotely. It's so simple. And the quality on your iPad is terrific. I'm very happy with it, and I will be using the service in the future. It's wonderful. I'm very glad that Vicdeaf has set up this program, and now the technology has enhanced itself to the point where it's giving me access to the families throughout the state. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Melissa. It is a great example of how the VRI service can create opportunities and access, particularly for those families with deaf children. They're quite isolated and don't have the ease of access to the deaf community, and they can access VRI and connect in with other deaf people, which is fantastic. And we provide VRI service not only with those various services we've mentioned, but also the judicial system within child protection agencies. It is quite broad, and the possibilities really are endless. Our focus is a priority service for those that actually need it through the DHHS credit line. So thank you again, Melissa, for sharing your experience. I'm quite excited now to show a brief video. You will be the first to see it. It's a launch of this video as well. The video was made for service providers in terms of how they can use VRI and what the benefits are of the VRI service. So enjoy.
Vicdeaf Auslan Connections. Vicdeaf Auslan Connections would like to introduce the new Video Remote Interpreting Service, or VRI for short. You may be familiar with VRI. It has been available for a number of years. Recently, however, advances in technology have made VRI even more flexible. VRI is the delivery of sign language interpreting via technology. Auslan is the signed language of the Australian deaf community. Although deaf people use a range of communication strategies, which may include lip reading and speech, it is always best to ask if they would prefer an interpreter. It is important to note that your client has the right to choose the language and mode of communication they feel will provide the best access. Providing an interpreter minimises confusion and avoids miscommunication, therefore enabling effective communication between your service and your client. Traditionally, Auslan interpreting services are provided face-to-face, meaning the interpreter travels to your location. In areas where a local interpreter may not be available, interpreting services can involve extensive wait times and incur significant travel costs. With VRI, interpreters can be booked without travel complications and will provide the same high-quality service for both you and your client. The VRI service employs only NAATI accredited interpreters who are available throughout the working week, making it easier to secure a booking. Our VRI interpreters work from purpose-built VRI facilities at Auslan Connections. The interpreter's image is then viewed on a screen at your location. The VRI service is most suited to appointments with a small number of participants. For example, financial services, housing assistance, Centrelink, healthcare appointments, employment assistance, and some legal appointments.
Thank you for making the time for today's meeting. We've got an interpreter through VRI today. Are you able to see them clearly?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Fantastic. Let's get started.
Vicdeaf uses state-of-the-art video conference equipment that is compatible with other systems such as Polycom, Tandberg or Cisco. Alternatively, our system can connect directly to a computer or tablet, providing excellent portability. You are then able to access our service at your own location. To use a laptop or tablet, all that is required is to download a small, free program called ClearC. ClearC works in a similar way as other video call programs. However, ClearC is secure and fully encrypted. Our service will provide you with a link to download the software and instructions for how to do so. In addition, Vicdeaf also offers interpreting via Skype. All of these methods require good internet connection, either broadband or 4G mobile. Auslan Connections are committed to providing you with innovative and flexible Auslan interpreting services to meet your communication needs.